Ahoy hoy, and welcome to the inaugural edition of On the Bench. My name's Jim, and today we'll begin our journey of watch reviews, opinion, and occasional cosy chats by the metaphorical YouTube fireside. As the channel hopefully grows, we'll look to upgrade our cameras and sound, and most likely my presentation and editing skills. But for now, if you've enjoyed this first foray, please attend to the quintessential quadruplets of like, subscribe, comment, and share. Your interaction and support are key to helping the channel grow, and I honestly look forward to seeing you all on a regular basis. And now, without further ado, on to our very first watch review, the Hawk T100 by Nite Watches. Now, who exactly are Nite Watches? Well, the one that's covered this bit that's been around for quite a long time, and yet not many people know them. They're a British company. They formed back in 2003. They do actually have a showroom in the UK, which is based down in Christchurch, which is down in the south of England. Possibly the reason why not many people know them that well is the fact that they're online only. And online only not because they're an Eastern European or Chinese company pretending to be Italian. It's because, a la Christopher Ward, it's the business model that generally works for them. Now, they currently produce 4 main models at the moment. There's the Alpha, which is an out-and-out diver. The Icon, which is a field watch with a little dash of Flieger thrown in as well, if you ask me. There's the MX-10, which is a no-nonsense military-style watch. And then this, the Hawk, which is by far the most rugged adventure tactical offering that they do. The Hawk comes in 4 varieties, or 4 different flavours. T100, of which one of these is this, which comes either with bracelet or with a polymer strap. Then you've got the T25, which is exactly the same model, just with a different type of tritium in it. And we're going to go through exactly what that means a little bit later. But everything else is the same between the T25 and the T100. Probably a slight reduction in price for the T25s. Now, this is not an unboxing video per se. I don't like unboxing videos. For me, what's the point in unboxing a watch just to say, oh, that's what it looks like, when you haven't worn it or done anything with it? But I like to repackage them after I've done it so you can have the whole experience of seeing it unboxed. So let's look at the packaging first. We have quite a standard mobile phone type box with a sleeve. Let's pop that out of the way. And yeah, nice quality standard phone case box. It's cardboard rather than plastic, but not a bad thing for the environment. It's marked with the Nite logo on the top and the 3 sides. And then let's see what we have inside. Okay, we have the obligatory marketing bump, which actually is also the instruction manual. That's quite clever. And a very nice Nite Watches money clip. Now, of course, if you're like me, you carry around several hundred or £1,000 with you on a daily basis, so that's gonna come in really helpful. But nice nonetheless. And here we have the watch itself. Now let's take it out and we'll have a look at how it measures up. Now, in terms of sizings, we have a case size of 50, we have a lug-to-lug of 52, we have a strap width of 24, and we have a height of about 14.5. The weight comes in at just under 70 grams at 68, so slightly lighter than they put on their website at 70, but I've got it at 68, but who's counting 2? While the case size is a 50, it comes out of 52, which is a large size. However, because of the curvature of these lugs, it will fit nicely on smaller wrists. Full disclosure, I have a wrist size of about 6.5 inches. Every boy wants a larger one, but there we go, eh? And it fits me absolutely fine. It really does sit nicely on the wrist. So even if you do have a smaller wrist, just because it's a larger case, please don't be put off. At least go and try one on if you can. The case, as you can probably see, is not metal. It's black polycarbide. And that translates into a very light field watch that you can wear all day without particularly knowing you're wearing it. Thanks to this polycarbide case, as well as being hard as nails, you could probably hammer the coffin nail in with it in the first place. It's slightly heavier at 68 to 70 than some of its competitors. However, we've got to factor in the fact that we do have a proper sapphire glass in here, which does have anti-reflective coating, and not some form of proprietary plastic you've never particularly heard of, but the company in question promise it's really good. The bezel is a 60-click unidirectional number with absolutely no backplate in it at all. This is the watch that's moving on the rubber strap, not that dial. It's absolutely rock solid. The face is matte black with contrasting silver metallic minutes and logo. We have our water resistance and then a very discreet Swiss movement along the bottom of the dial. The loomed hands are thick sword point type with a very nicely contrasting red also loomed second hand. Lower right, white on black date, which is perfectly centered in the date window, which makes such a change for watches in this sort of category in terms of their price anyway. And that squaring up of the date within the date window does lead on to everything else that we're going to talk about within the face as well, because everything is very well measured. The loomed indices are all straight. They're all pointing to the middle. They're all an equal distance from the edge. The second hand actually matches the second indices on its way round. Probably a little bit difficult to see from the angle that the camera's at now, but I assure you they do actually line up. Now this is in really stark contrast to other watch brands of a similar nature that I've owned. It's so nice to see they've actually taken the time to actually put them on right. Now, moving around to the crown, it is nicely stamped with the Nite logo. And this is where I came up with my first little head scratcher after I'd taken it out of the box. Now you see, as we've seen on the face, this is quoted as 200 meters water resistant. But this crown is not screw down. Which made me think, okay, well, you know, possible, but 200 meters out screw down crown, I really can't see that. But it was on setting the time where I found out how they've done that. And this is where attention to detail with your watches comes in. So, if we move around, if we look very carefully, when I just pull against the crown and let go, you should be able to see there, it is springing back. It's springing back because that inside is an O-ring. What's an O-ring? It's a rubber gasket. What's a rubber gasket? It's a piece of rubber which goes around the inside of the stem that's going into this watch here and stopping water under pressure seeping into the mechanism. So what we have is most likely, absolutely, 200 meters of water resistance, and that O-ring is where that's coming from. Now, as you can imagine, we pull out once for date setting, and we pull out twice to set the time. As you can see, it's a hacking movement. The second hand stops to allow proper time. Moving around to the back, we have more polycarbide in the back of the case, 4 screws holding it in place, and an internal gasket on the inside as well. As the more observant of you will have noticed, this is the strap version rather than the bracelet. I'm always been a person who, if it's available on a metal bracelet, get the bracelet. However, I have bought this watch for a specific purpose. It's because I work outside, I work with fluids, I work with things that you really don't necessarily want to take home with you caught in the crevices of a metal watch. So for my night service watch, I particularly wanted one with a rubber strap. Why? Because I can wipe it clean. It's 24mm on this one, which is slightly bigger than what I'm used to, and slightly bigger again than some of its competitors, but it wears really, really well. The branding isn't just on the metalwork, which you'll find on a lot of watches, is actually on the rubber as well. So this is a whole custom strap for the watch, which is really, really nice. The centre is textured for grip, so even if your hands are wet or you've got gloves on, you can still get a good grip on this to put it on. Round the back, there are a couple of tool notches for you to be able to easily change this for an aftermarket strap if you want to, and I will be, and I normally wear it with one, and again I'm going to go into that a little bit later as to why. What we also have at this end is a really nice retainer. So once this is through, the rubber rings on this side, because of that retaining, it is not going to come off or come loose, which is really handy if you're flapping around in the water or you're in the dark or you don't need things catching on things when you don't want them to. And now on to a very important question. What is under the hood? What powers this thing? Is it diesel? Is it petrol? Is it hybrid? Well, as you might have guessed, this is electric. To be precise, this is a Swiss quartz Ronda 715 Li. There's no no-name mystery movement with this watch, which I really like. Again, look at some of the competitors to this watch, and you see what movement's in it, and it just says quartz. Why? Probably because they're using just the cheapest one that they can get their hands on that particular given week that will fit the case. Now, not so with Nite. You know exactly what you're getting, and that's the Ronda 715 Li. The 715 is a really reliable movement. It's graded to -10 to +20 seconds a month. So very accurate, as you would expect from a quartz. And in the Li, we have an extra feature. It is a lithium battery. What does that mean? 10 years stated battery life. Now that's not bad. So let's start moving towards why you're all here. The whole purpose of this Nite watch. It's pièce de résistance. I am a big fan of tritium watches. Why? Because I work outside in the dark when I'm not near a light source, and there's nothing more embarrassing or difficult to do at certain times than start wafting a torch over your watch to find out what time it is. Now, there are of course fanboys of a certain Japanese company that will say that their loom is the best in the world. Well, no, it's not. Tritium by far beats it hands down. It might not be as bright for the first 20 minutes after you have wafted said torch all over it. However, once it fades, the tritium is still going. However, most watches, including the sister or brother of this one, which is the T25, mainly use T25 tubes, and that's what was in my previous watch. However, while it is, yes, readable, is the T25 superbly bright? No. It does take a few seconds for your eyes to settle on the dial, which is why I decided to look for a watch with better tritium in it. And here we have the T100s, of which there aren't that many available. There's only a few games in town. And I was really happy to be reminded when I was looking for the T100 of the Nite Watches. And there we had the T100 powered Hawk by Nite. So what's the difference between the T25 and the T100s? T25s tend to be what most companies run on from what I can see in terms of having owned various ones. What does the T25 mean? Well, the T, tritium or trigger light, the 25 relates to the amount of millicuries that are being kicked out by the light tubes, how much radiation is being emitted by them. This being perfectly safe radiation, by the way, not the kind of stuff you need to go and see a doctor after wearing it. The T100, by its name, you may guess, is 4 times brighter than the average tritium tubes. And this is where this watch becomes absolutely spectacular. So let's knock out the lights. And here we have it. This thing glows like a kid's nightlight. It is absolutely phenomenal. But let's caveat this. There may be people out there who would be better suited with T25 tubes. Now, who am I thinking about? Well, let's put it this way. If you're out being sneaky beaky, shall we say, in the presence of bad guys, the last thing you want on your wrist is something glowing this bright. Fine if you're going to cover it up and then just take it out when you need it to. Otherwise, you might be better suited with a T25 set. But who would be able to use this watch? Well, people like myself. You have the emergency services, you have armed forces, you have security. Anybody who wants a watch that you can read as clear as day at night and all night without going near a light source to recharge it, these sets are for you. And as if by magic, back to daylight. Now on the channel, I will always endeavour to be honest and true with my reviews and my feelings, but please do bear in mind this is personal opinion. So if I were going to try and gripe about this watch, and there's not much to do, to be honest, there's a couple of things. First of all, the numbers on the bezels aren't exactly perfectly executed. There's, just by the eye, they seem to be a little off-centre, a little off-true, but it's a minor point, and it's me being uber picky, and polycarbide isn't the easiest stuff to work with. And moving on with the bezel, I have to say bezels are a little bit like Goldilocks with her porridge. They're either too hot, too cold, or just right. But that general feeling is entirely subjective in most cases. Now, I have had some where they will literally just spin with the slightest little knock, and that's no good at all. I've had some that felt just right. Now, this is verging on a little stiff. In my view, anyway. It moves absolutely fine, but you've really got to give it some welly. But with that, you're not going to knock it and accidentally move it, which is good. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is this wonderful strap. Wonderful it is, but it does have a couple of minor problems. Firstly, there's the retainer at this end. It is very difficult to get through these loops. It is quite a struggle to get this thing on. Once on, it's also a bit of a pig to get off, but at least it's not going to fall off when you don't want it to. Next, while I've said this is perfectly fine for smaller wrists, again, smaller wrists cause a problem, but again, with this retainer, because we have a more acute angle to a smaller wrist as opposed to a larger wrist, this sticks out literally sideways from the end loop. Nothing you are going to do is going to sort that out. What you can do is keep this loop over this retainer rather than behind it, but that kind of takes out the purpose of wearing it in the first place. But this is just a skinny wrist issue. My wrist's 6.5 inches. If yours are larger than that, you shouldn't have a problem. However, it will stick out, but it's not a problem in general. It's a very easy fix. I'm putting an aftermarket strap on it, so it's clinically wipeable. Problem solved. At the time of recording, this retails at £325 for the polymer strap and £405 on the bracelet. Slightly less for the T25s, but if you need that legibility, the T100 is absolutely the way to go. As I said a little bit earlier, I've owned several watches of tritium combined with tactical style, and for me, this one with the T100 is genuinely the best that I have owned. The legibility is incredible. The weight is just fine. It wears really well. For the money, I genuinely don't think you can do much better.